just how that kind of issue sort of disappeared. So my question to Robert, if you have any insight on this, I mean, my understanding early on was that that extreme cold was to maintain the integrity of the lipid nanoparticles. And do you think that Pfizer basically started being a little bit more loose with that, knowing that there was some type of degradation in the vaccines, potentially making the vaccines actually safer because there was less active sort of lipid nanoparticles? And secondly, do you think that this could have been something coordinated by Pfizer so that the initial contracts were being done through more of a defense sort of lineage versus either going through the departments of health or things like that? And I was just, it's something that I've just been curious about because I haven't really heard too much about why there was this change where there was so much insistence that this needed to be kind of kept at like minus 70 degrees Celsius, which most countries and most even in the Western world, you know, pharmacies and places like that are not equipped to have that type of refrigeration for the vaccines or whatever you want to call the treatments. So my question is really pertaining to how that narrative sort of shifted, if you're aware of any kind of reasons why that happened, and if you think that there was, you know, I hate to use a word, but something sort of nefarious by Pfizer and the other vaccine manufacturers, specifically with the mRNA vaccines, if that was sort of done to kind of get this into the channels on the defense side more so than the Department of Health. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks again for everything that you guys have done. Over.
So James, you're touching on the sensitive topic of the storage and shipping conditions, and my understanding is that that's largely driven by both the long history of storing mRNA products at very low temperatures, typically minus 70. That's laboratory norms. And furthermore, these particular complexes have a problem, which is they aggregate like crazy. It's the reason why the polyethylene glycol is in there. And I believe that there was initially, remember, everything was rushed. And my inference is that the choice of the super low storage conditions, which, as you point out, make for a nightmare for a cold chain, one which typically only military can sustain, was driven by a belief system that these products were likely to be unstable at even minus 20. Over time, I think they got the data, because to do stability studies actually requires quite a bit of time to do it in a controlled way. Not many probably on this phone call have had to deal with stability studies, but they take a lot of time to do them well. And so I think they erred on the side of overreaction in the storage, and then over time got the data suggesting that that wasn't going to be necessary. That's inference. I have not seen any of these data. And in terms of the contracts with the DoD, in the case of the United States, that was absolutely done through a process called other transactional authorities, which bypasses the federal acquisition regulations and was actively exploited by Pfizer and Moderna, in my opinion. It's like another layer of indemnification as a consequence of being under an OTA as opposed to a FAR contract. And HHS at the time here in the United States, I can't speak for other countries, at the time when these contracts are being let through BARDA or otherwise, BARDA was actually in a difficult position because they had ongoing investigations of their own contracting office. And so they didn't have access to another transactional authority contracting vehicle. And so that was why it got pushed over to DoD, I believe. Satya Latipova has done excellent work in analyzing this. I think it is important to not get too far away from the things that we can prove. It's easy to speculate, and I'm not in any way defending the Department of Defense, uh, which absolutely was intimately involved, particularly with the Moderna project, not so much with Pfizer. Remember, Pfizer's product was developed by BioNTech, which is European, and was really a competitor to the really CIA/DARPA funded Moderna. So that's what I can say based on what I know and can reasonably infer. The other stuff may or may not be true, but I have no way to find out whether or not it's true because I wasn't invited to the meetings. Over.
Thank you, Dr. Malone. I see new speakers have joined. Mays, you have your hand up, so please go ahead, and then we'll have Dr. Sabine Hazan, and then we'll have Sean Hartman speak after that.
Thank you, Mario. My question was actually to Jenna, and asking how much do you think that the global organizations are influencing what's happening, and also if you have any concerns around what the WHO is doing, the World Health Organization, with their new pandemic preparedness and emergency health emergency instruments, the 2 amendments that essentially is removing the joint resolution aspect of our agreement and partnership. And it seems a little bit like we're giving more power to an organization, just a centralized from a perspective of being able to declare a health emergency, which they widened, by the way, or are planning to with these 2 amendments, but then also their control and power over individual rights as a result of that. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Sorry to kind of digress to the legal aspect of things again, but I just think it is an important topic.
Yeah, thanks. That is a really important topic. And broadly speaking, we should not, as the United States nor any other country, but speaking as an American and love of this country, we should not yield any of our sovereignty to an organization that is foreign and that does not have specifically America's best interests in mind, nor that our Constitution really allows for that kind of delegation of binding authority over us. And I think that we need to be very careful not to cede that. President Trump was very right for his stance with the World Health Organization and trying to not fund that from the American perspective. And I would encourage everyone to read Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, and obviously be familiarized with the whole thing. But in Article 6, when it talks about the United States entering into treaties, there is language in Article 6, and I'm pulling it up right now, that in Section 2, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, and anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So this is a really scary provision that has been used by, frankly, foreign enemies through treaties to basically add to our supreme law and bind us to obligations through treaties that would not otherwise be ratified in Congress. So things like the World Health Organization, things like United Nations treaties, things like even the USMCA. There was a huge contention over the ability for sexual orientation, gender identity language that had not been passed through Congress that was being attempted by Canada to be put into that treaty to essentially circumvent Congress. And all of these things need to be very carefully measured, and we need to be very, very careful to not yield any of our sovereignty to any of these other organizations that are a world conglomerate that will then bind the United States to their decision making, their process, and their adjudication. And this is why it's incredibly critical that we have people in Congress, but especially the executive, who can make treaties, that understand this type of loophole and this type of, I mean, it's in the Constitution, it's not a loophole, but they're trying to use it in a way that our founders didn't intend. And so I think it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we are contacting our members of Congress, we are contacting the executive branch, and we are voting wisely, so that we don't get ourselves in a situation like we are now, that we've yielded far too much of our own national sovereignty to some of these entities that really have no jurisdiction, and they should not have any binding jurisdiction over us.
Thank you, Jenna. I see Dr. Sabine Hazan is on. Did you want to comment on the story tonight and the overall conversation so far?
No, I mean, we're in a weird time in this country and around the world, I think. I've believed from the beginning that the research was done very fast and very poorly. And, we came out with a vaccine for everyone. And, we are seeing some problems and we're not acknowledging the problems. And I think we need to acknowledge the problems because certainly some people are affected. We were the lab that picked up COVID in the stools. We were the lab that found that people with severe COVID had loss of bifidobacteria, which is really a key important microorganism in your gut, which is the trillion-dollar industry of probiotics. And then from there discovered, vitamin C increased the bifidobacteria and potentially, and focusing more on bifidobacteria and the microbiome. But more importantly, what we discovered with vaccination was this disappearance or killing of the microbes in the gut post-vaccination. We took 34 patients that were before they were vaccinated and then after they got the vaccine a month later, and noticed that there was damages to the microbiome from there. The microbiome tells you the story of what's going to happen in the future. Diseases that you may have in the future. This is a new area of that everybody's looking into, from neurological problems to autoimmune to GI, whether the microbiome has an impact. And so, if these vaccines are affecting the microbiome, we really need to pay attention and to see, what's going on. And to me, it doesn't shock me what we are seeing, and because I saw it in the microbiome. So, I think it's important to pay attention, and I think it's important for the American people to speak up, and it's important for doctors to speak up of what they see. It's not okay to just say, "Hey, I have patients with CMV encephalitis and herpes encephalitis shortly after the vaccine." Report it, call the agencies. I'm still a believer that the agency is there to help us. I believe they're overworked. I believe it's above their head. I mean, I'll be honest, the majority of physicians do not understand genetic sequencing. The majority of government agents do not understand genetic sequencing, and what is at stake here. And I think even the people that are, coming out with these solutions do not understand what's at stake, and because they've not really looked at the microbiome. This is a new area. This is a new way of looking at disease. And I think once you start looking at that, you start, going, wait a minute, stop everything and be a voice. That's why I'm a voice on this. I saw it. And when I saw 4 patients where the damage to the microbiome was persistent and their bifidobacteria went from like 1 million copies to like 0 after 9 months, in other words, the damage in 4 patients is still persisting, obviously something's going to happen. This is a domino effect, right? Of one bug, you kill one bug, it kills another, and then eventually you wake up one morning with disease. So I think, thank you for making us look into what's going on at Pfizer, and we need to all be more awake and more vocal and speak up, because unfortunately this is humanity is at stake here. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Hazan. I appreciate your words. Sean Hartman, you're on. Did you have something to add here?
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm Sean's father.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Project Veritas, I really appreciate you. Bless you guys for what you're doing. That's what I call fighting. Nailing these scum. My son was 17 years old and played hockey his whole life. And to continue to play hockey, he had to have a vaccine. He took one shot of Pfizer, which he didn't want to do. 33 days after his first shot, my boy was found dead on the floor beside his bed. He was perfectly healthy and had no underlying conditions. The cause of death on the autopsy is unascertained. They don't know why he died, and they expect me to live with this. And I've been fighting every single day for Sean and others since my boy died. I just wanted to say to Dr. Cole, Ryan, you are my only hope in this life. My mental health is draining so bad, and I need you, brother. I need you to get me the truth. You're the only one who can help me. And I just need you to tell me what I already know. I can't grieve Sean without the truth. And Sean can't rest in peace without the truth. In my opinion, Pfizer murdered my son. I'm begging you, Dr. Cole, please help me. Thank you.
Dr. Cole, I don't know if you're still listening, if you wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, Dan, I'll give you a call tomorrow. I've got some preliminary information that I think will put your heart at rest. So we'll just go from there. I don't want to be too public about it yet. So, and my heart goes out to everybody who's.
There's echo behind you, Dr. Cole. There's echo behind you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm at my daughter's birthday dinner.
Oh, no worries.
So, anyway, yeah, Dan, I'll reach back out, and God bless you, my friend.
Dr. Hosanis, you have your hands up. Do you want to respond there?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, he's not the only one. I'm reviewing 3 cases right now of 3 kids that are 18 years old, who basically, one was a tennis player, and the other one was perfectly healthy. The parents didn't even know that she was vaccinated, and then suddenly, in an 18-year-old is just not normal. It's not normal, and certainly not normal in a hockey player or a tennis player or a healthy kid. And by the way, none of those kids were using drugs. None of them, I took a full history on all these kids. None of them were alcoholics. They were good kids that basically worked hard, were trying to were going to college or took time and started working. This is not normal. This needs to be looked at. I mean, in clinical trials, this is a serious adverse event. And to me, the fact that these cases are not being looked at by the FDA is really concerning, because this is the number one thing that we as PI, principal investigators, when we do clinical trials, we, are told, did anything serious happen to the patient? And if a patient dies, that is the number one thing. You have 24 hours to report that to the regulatory board and to the FDA. And typically, the study goes into a black box warning when somebody dies. Here are these 3 cases that I'm reviewing, and there's basically, there's a suspense. We don't know. And like Sean's father, this is basically, he wants answers, and you could hear it in his voice. And same with the other 2 parents that I have. They want answers. I totally get that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Jenna, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Following that, I wanted to ask a question to Dr. Malone and the other doctors here that a woman named Angie tweeted to me on the thread. She's asking, we want to know what tests our loved ones can take now to mitigate potential repercussions, such as what specific tests should our family members take to assess if the shot is doing or has done damage that hasn't been presented yet.
And this is Robert. And Dr. Cole, it has what's called both anatomic and clinical certification as a pathologist, which means he is the absolute expert on tests. So we defer to Ryan if he's still there. surgery done. I even went to Tennessee to a functional medicine doctor to get me off of a lot of the pharmaceuticals that I was on, because the doctors here refused to fill them, because I went into the office and asked them to see them. I'm trying to stand up for my rights, just as a basic citizen. You have to excuse me because my heart goes out to that father that lost his 16-year-old. And there are a lot of local people here that passed away also. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'm just glad that you guys are on it, that you're fighting it. Thank God for Project Veritas, the real news that we've been waiting for. All the doctors and everybody, I just thank you. And if there's anything or any information that I can get from any of you pertaining to New York State in particular as to the lack of medical care that people need, because they won't bow down to the New York State Department of Health's requirements or the hospitals. I'd appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate yours. Dr. Mike G, go ahead, please.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me. I've been an emergency physician for 30 years, just to give you my background. I'm thankfully able to remain unvaccinated, even under threat of losing my job due to religious exemption. And the fact that I've been following RFK Jr. for about 10 years had me ahead of the curve when it came to the COVID vaccine. I'd really like to thank Dr. Malone and Cole and the FLCCC, who I've been following since the beginning of this pandemic, and have used the FLCC's protocols and information to great effect. Even though living in a blue state, I had to do it behind the scenes to help treat the medications, without being able to go directly to pharmacies. I want to congratulate and thank Project Veritas for having the stones to go after Pfizer the way they did, the only way that they could expose the egregious crimes that I think are criminal and that should be prosecuted by jail time from the people who knew about them, and not just play the numbers game of fining the multi-billion-dollar company a small percentage of what they can earn. And I think, the gentleman from England on before said this was an assault on women. This is assault on humanity, and mostly an assault on our children. What we've done to this generation is heinous and criminal. Our young children have been affected psychologically based on masking and lockdowns, and the idea that we need to isolate them and they're responsible for their grandparents' life and death. We've damaged them physically by forcing them and continuing to promote vaccinating young children who have no risk of this disease. And we've possibly affected them genetically based on the information that's coming out now. One question that I haven't heard addressed, because I've followed this closely for a long time, and I don't want to fearmonger by asking this question, but I want to know if anybody has really studied the safety of our blood supply, and if there's any persistence of the spike protein in the blood supply. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any doctor that can address that question?
is then the vaccine didn't work because obviously, you know, they got COVID after vaccination. You know, these are all cases that I'm mentioning that were post-vaccination. So I think, again, this is, we need to start paying attention, and we need to start paying attention to spike protein injury. Personally, I think, you know, even the long hauler is spike protein injury. And why is this happening? Why is the spike protein causing a bacteriophage in the gut? say, honest at the magnitude that among that consortium in England and South Africa and Germany, I mean, it's probably 90% before they woke up and said, there's something wrong. Let me look into this. And once they used their critical thinking skills and said, oh my goodness, that's when their tune changed. And I'm hopeful that the whole medical community doesn't have to be injured before they wake up. Thanks for that. So, Viva, right back to you. I know you were, in another response about it, we asked you the question, and I recently saw that you posted about our first Pfizer video in terms of the response, the Pfizer response, and your legal take on that. So I want to get your thoughts on the legal aspect of this, both in the US and Canada, because Pfizer, as you know, is a global company, and as well as your thoughts on the video today, if anything legal there. We have Jen on here today, too, so two great legal experts to discuss this. I was listening to Jen earlier. The story that you watch in these videos, they are not saying anything. They're just revealing what people have been saying for the last 2 years. And the Pfizer response to the first video, which is, it was not just a non-response as far as I'm concerned, it was as much of an acknowledgement or an admission as you're going to get. Rephrasing exactly what the guy in the video said was a lie, but rephrasing it as truth. And they're just now basically admitting surreptitiously or when they think that nobody's listening, what people have been saying for the last 2 years. These companies have been given immunity, and there are current lawsuits. There's Veritas, these Keaton lawsuit, fraud on behalf of the government that gave the immunity. Fraud, in theory, vitiates everything, and it sounds and smells and looks like overt fraud at best and something else at worst, coming from two companies which have paid the highest criminal civil fines to the top 3 for pharmaceutical companies. What's going to happen? God willing, it's going to become popular to begin outing the corruption and the fraud. But these videos are just making clear a thing that cannot be denied anymore, not just that there are problems, but that they were known, and that they were known at a time when these companies were saying these are not problems, they're not known, or they're false to begin with, and now we're finding out they're real and they know about them all along. It can't come fast enough. And it's very able to listen to this and not get enraged. I was listening to a podcast on Maddie did, what's left in the Ray. I listened to that, and it was known at the time. It's been concealed for 2 years, and but for James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, and the entire team, it's now being revealed as becoming undeniable to the point where Pfizer doesn't even deny it. They issue a Friday afternoon word salad of an admission. I will see where it goes legally. Fraud is everything. The only problem is that you've got 2 criminals in the same bed, one of which gave the immunity to the other criminal. So I'm not optimistic, but social pressure is mounting. No, I hear you there. Absolutely. Stella Escobedo, you're a journalist. I want to get your take on the media coverage of, the first story, the story today, you've done the media, you worked here at CBS and ABC. Why will, I know you don't work there anymore, obviously, but why will these mainstream media organizations pick up on this story in your opinion? Hi everyone, thank you so much. So I was part of mainstream media for, 15 years, and then during COVID, things changed as I realized, wow, we're really not covering news. Now it's more American news. And so what happened when my situation, what I noticed with newsrooms, and speaking with other people who I know across the nation, it was basically related to vaccine hesitancy. Any story that created vaccine hesitancy, we were covering it. So if there were parents who were protesting lockdowns, or parents protesting mandates, we just didn't cover it. And that's when I realized I went to USC, got my degree in journalism, and I worked all across the nation. I worked in Phoenix, I worked in Tucson, and I'm like, wow, this is not news. So that's basically what's happening is you have people in the newsrooms who, the news directors or the executive producers who are, we can just assume, are that fall. And I think this is where we have to pay attention to spike protein injury again, where, this is probably myocarditis or cardiac arrest directly. And in those cases, you're not going to see anything in the autopsy necessarily. Of course, Ryan will talk more about that, but, I think in those, early cases where the spike protein just causes that inflammation and the patient, dies suddenly while he's playing sports and exerting himself and therefore exerting his heart, you're not going to see anything on the autopsy to begin with. It is shocking that the media is not reporting or hiding the mainstream media. I can tell you that, I've done a lot of clinical trials with 4 vaccines, so I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm in the clinical trial world where I helped the drugs for pharmaceutical companies for almost 3 decades, and I've done over 300 clinical trials. Some of them were vaccine studies, so I'm not an anti-vaxxer. But what I'm seeing is really not following the ICH-GCP guidelines that we do for clinical trials, that we've done for clinical trials for the last 30 years. Informed consent is not followed very well. The majority of patients that got vaccinated didn't get a copy of their consent. And then the other thing is not reporting the serious adverse events and not reporting, the events period. So, and again, there is a big movement of this misinformation and also removal of data. My own papers, I've published, a lot of papers and probably over a dozen papers on COVID, this pandemic, especially with the microbiome. And one of the papers was a hypothesis on why ivermectin worked. And my hypothesis was basically ivermectin is a fermented product of a bacteria called Streptomyces, which is in the same island, the same group as bifidobacteria. So perhaps in an episode of hypoxia where the patient's losing oxygen, perhaps giving them ivermectin increases the bifidobacteria in the gut and therefore allows them to breathe and increases their oxygen saturation. So this was just a hypothesis. And let me tell you, it was criticized by a website that nobody knows who are the scientists or the doctors on this website, and was given a letter of notice, a hypothesis bravery to speak up. Sorry, I just want to say it still again. I agree. I think a lot more people need to be brave, and once you step into that world, it's not as scary as it seems, because I felt that way coming from mainstream media. I think also one of the biggest issues with mainstream media is they read press releases. It's literally Pfizer says a client, so of course Pfizer is going to say that their vaccine is 99% effective. And that was the biggest issue during the pandemic, is nobody, the mainstream media didn't question, well, we have Scott Gottlieb who's coming out and speaking all the time. Who is he? What is his relation? He sits on the board. So I think that we need more journalists as well to ask real questions and to just Yeah, you brought tears to my eyes. And that phenomenon, that fact cannot be overemphasized. And it was predictable. It was so obvious we were going to do this. I always tell people, when Ukraine got attacked and Ukrainian women with the children running out of border to Poland, there'd be a microphone in their face, and the women would say it's terrible for them, but men are behind, they're going to fight. But these kids have been out of school for 2 weeks. You have to get them back in school for 2 weeks. They need school in 2 years. We subject kids to that while scaring them to death, while locking them in the room, while bringing them into the environment where they're more likely to get COVID. It's just maybe not letting them go outside. It's just unconscionable. And it's so predictable. Drives me nuts. I'll tell you that's something that drives me the most nuts. Especially when I watched the entire FDA online streaming hearing for whether they were going to approve the vaccine for 5 to 12-year-olds. And there were so many opinions that said, well, since I only can answer yes, no to this one question of is there benefit from the vaccine, and I don't want kids that really need it to not be able to get it, I guess I have to vote yes. And then that decision became a mandate. Yeah, awful. It's unbelievable. And that's the other, in addition to asking questions like, are we seeing more sensitive? Is there, what is causing the excess death in multiple countries? Are athletes actually dropping or not? Is that related to COVID or the vaccine or both? But the other question is, why is our government agencies pushing so hard on vaccinating kids? It makes no sense. Right, especially in the study, the control group had 0 hospitalizations and 0 deaths. Anyone that knows science knows that that's basically the end of it right there. We don't need to look bizarre. It's bizarre if they're going at it so hard. This is the kind of, I've been shaking for 2 years. I've been shaking my head like, where did this come from? You know what RFK says? He says it's to get it on the schedule so they can have long-term liability. It is a theory. It is a theory. Theory. Hey, Dr. Drew, this is Dr. Cole. I want to confirm with, I went over yesterday and everybody wants to see the images in terms of the neurologic harms, the Pfizer that I want to get back to the kids that you guys were just talking about and kind of circle it back to the Project Veritas interview here. We don't know what we've done to the potential future fertility of these kids either, in terms of the number of kids in certain states that were subjected to the mRNA injections. There was a study by, unfortunately, I forget the author's name, but he looked at mRNA plus a flu injection in mice, and in the mother mouse had a change in her gene expression profile, and then 4 consecutive litters of pups had the same alteration after this lipid nanoparticle gene sequence injection of influenza. So there's some animal studies showing that the changes that are happening can be passed on to the next generation. So these fertility problems that Pfizer knew about based on their EUA, how much of this gene expression profile problem is going to happen going forward in another generation. We'll be here and answer questions, but when you have a Pfizer official or a contractor saying, oh yeah, we're kind of worried about maybe what we've done, and that whole generation of kids, I mean,
what have we done? We don't know, and this is again basic science and what's allowed to be published, like you were mentioning, and
I think Dr. Cole cut off there. Let me see. Just wanted to see. I think Dr. Braun is on the space right now. I don't know if he dropped. I know he wanted to talk, but Dr. Thorpe, you have your hand up. By the way, guys, we're probably gonna close this off in about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll get some final thoughts here. Dr. Thorpe, the floor is yours for now.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for all my colleagues, everybody, Dr. Drew and Jordan and Ryan and everybody. I want to kind of circle back to what the Project Veritas video is about today, and focusing on menstrual irregularity. I want to point out that we don't know what's causing the menstrual irregularity. I don't, as
a 44 years of doing OBGYN and still practicing actively, I doubt whether it's a hormonal interruption or a hormonal block or anything to do with a hypothalamic pituitary axis. Because we see that all the time pre-pandemic. We saw it, women who undergo menopause never had these horrible bleeding episodes. Same with the people before the pandemic that actually had irregular menses. They didn't have irregular menses that were this catastrophic and this aggressive in terms of blood, bleeding, and clotting. So the simple fact of the matter is we have no idea what the etiology is. And so my cycle story is really what broke this. And my cycle story is a group I'm involved with. Children's Health Defense is involved with, Dan McDyer, a whole group, Dr. Brian Hooker, all over the country. And we published our first paper about a year ago, last year. It was very, 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 very groundbreaking paper. I think in essence, it pretty much proves that there's some shedding going on.
But the etiology and the treatment of the really very abnormal menstruation in women of reproductive age is enigmatic. We have a lot of theories about it. Probably about 7 or 8 different potential etiologies. But this is extremely important, and there is no research money. Ryan Cole, in a parallel group, Ryan Cole and I, in a group of about 8 of us in the United States and Europe, we are actually trying to procure monies to study this exact issue, to get in vitro biopsies, to get placenta biopsies. Ryan is Dr. Cole is we are very excited about this, working on the assay that will actually be able to do this like assay or whatever is being shed. We don't know for certain what is being shed. So until we can get in vitro biopsies, until we can get some hormone levels like, LH, FSH, GnRH, estrogen, progesterone, is this coming from a microclotting in the capillaries at the level of the endometrium? We don't know. The standard therapy before the pandemic for dysfunctional and bleeding period, oftentimes will include hormonal therapy, whether it's estrogen or progesterone. But if that is microclotting, or if it could be maybe a severe autoimmune reaction with the anti-syncytin antibody and the syncytin in the endometrium, we just don't know. But the therapies that we used before are not treating the same pathophysiology of this abnormal bleeding that we're seeing during this pandemic. And we don't know what's causing it. We just know be saying that there's no changes in administration. And then you have a concerned person who is hit up on her social media to say that there was this woman that was killing people and telling the doctors and researchers, journalists to say that there was a problem. And yet you have these top female specialists from the DOD denying the problem. I think that the timeline of all of this is going to become crucial. I think putting through requests for documents, I really applaud all of the attorneys that have been doing that work. The timeline, who's involved, who knew what, is going to be substantial evidence. Once again, I absolutely applaud your efforts, Country Veritas, for doing this. I'm always interested in sort of what Walker is confirming for many of us that have been doing behind the scenes work and not being able to prove things. For me, I'm very interested in the mechanical part of this. I treat the spike protein like a bomb. I'm packing it like I would any other weapon, trying to understand how it's working and what else, how to mitigate against it and to look out for what it's going to do now and what it's going to do in the future. And what Walker was able to do for me, and I really want to encourage the physicians to look at this, is that there is, for me, a hormonal component. And I think that whether he's correct or not in the hypothalamic pituitary axis, I think it's very important to look at how the spike protein affects the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal gland. I think that Dr. Malone and Dr. Cole made that very clear tonight, and we know that this is affecting multiple organs. I think it's very important to look at this from an endocrine system, and importantly, I think this what this does is really very crucial for the doctors that have been gaslighting patients, not finding some, rival reason for long COVID and for vaccine injury, to really look at this on a molecular level, look at the endocrine changes and the long-term effect of this. It's always hard for me in terms of, I think, like many of us know, we sort of towing the line here, in that we just know that what we see in the present is really the tip of the iceberg, and it's deeply concerning to know what's coming. The last point that I want to make, and I sort of feel more comfortable doing this now on these spaces as the research is catching up and then there's more space to be open. There are probably many people that are going to still think that this is very sort of conspiratorial or simple, like that there's a component that I've been studying because it relates to biowarfare, and that is the component that I want to give people a reason, a rational reason, that they are not seeing that much reaction from their colleagues, their friends, family members. And I'm very interested in the subset of people that have been vaccinated. And it seems to have, it's tempered all of us. But I'm very surprised that there are even people that are vaccinated that have actually been able to break out of the mind control aspect to this. The spike protein hits nicotinic receptors and creates downregulation of what's known as the monoamine neurotransmitters. And so you're going to have, Dr. Sipka Hazan is brilliant at gut biome, and she knows all about how the gut biome relates to the mind-body connection, and the two of those will get absolutely devastated. So what you're seeing from people is actually downregulation of the probably the most important neurotransmitters that keep us human. And all of us, in some way, can judge ourselves and have an awareness to ask was is appreciating projectile service in a area like disease, rare aging, and oxidative stresses is accelerated. And part of that is leaving us all sort of in the state where we're really fighting for our lives biologically. And I think that I'll be looking at that devastation as it relates to the gut biome, which is very new to me in terms of understanding it. And the part that ties up to that is really the devastation of trying to keep these neurotransmitters from down-regulating, from basically getting us all into this very, very complacent, tranquilized state. And so just keep fighting. I absolutely appreciate every single one of the brilliant people that are on here. You're constant inspiration to me and millions of other people. And let's just keep sharing information. And thank you so much for these videos that in some way vindicate myself, my colleagues, and other people, many people in this audience that have known this all along. Thank you for that, Dr. Brown. I think that that's a great place. We got to wrap this up. I think you had so many points, and I want to thank all of the speakers that we had up today, all the medical experts, for everybody that listened in or joined in. The space has been going for about 3 hours or a little over now. It will be recorded, so the recording will be on our feed. You can definitely go and check that out. But I just want to say before everybody goes off, we've got 10,000 people roughly listening in right now. If you support the work of Project Veritas, I do encourage you to please consider making a tax-deductible donation. You can do so at projectveritas.com/donate. It really is because of the financial support of everybody out there that we're able to keep doing this. So if you want to keep seeing videos like this, keep seeing true investigative journalism, we need your support. I think the amount that these stories specifically about over the last week, it's truly something that we haven't seen before. And all the support that we've been getting is very encouraging. And I just would like to let everybody know that they can go and they can make a donation. Again, the website is projectveritas.com/donate. So that's it for tonight, guys. Stay tuned for a lot more updates. The story is still developing. It's still breaking. I think the video right now on Twitter has seen about 3 million views in the last 4 hours since we launched it. So go share it, go tweet the hashtag fertility, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, guys.